All right, now question 10. Excuse me. How many times does 7 go into 13.23? Decimal would go right there. 7 doesn't go into 1. 7 goes into 13 one time because 2 times is too much. 1 times 7 is 7. Remainder is 6. I now bring down this 2. All right, so we are now in this place value right up there. 7 goes into 62. Well, 9 times 7 is 63, so that's too much. But 8 times 7 would be 56. Remainder is 62 minus 56 is 6. I bring down this 3 right there. And 7 goes into 63 exactly 9 times. 9 times 7 is 63. No more remainder. The answer is 1.89. For number 11, how many times does 28 go into 29.12? Well, we would put the decimal right there. 28 does not go into 2, but it does go into 29 one time. 1 times 28 is 28. My remainder is 1. I bring down this 1 right here. How many times does 28 go into 11? It does not, so we're going to put in a 0 there. 0 times 28 is 0. No more remainder. 11 minus 0 is, sorry, not no more remainder. 11 minus 0 is 11. Now I can bring down that 2 and see how many times does 28 go into 112. All right, well, this is close to 30. So 30 times 3 is 90. 30 times 4 is 120. Let's try 4. So I'm going to do some scrap work over here. 4 times 28. Let's see what happens. 4 times 8 is 32. Carry the 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. Yeah, it goes in exactly 111. So 4, not goes in. I meant 4 times 28 equals 112. Sorry. Tired. 4 times 28 is 112. My remainder is 0, which means the answer to this question is 1.04. So for number 12, how many times does 16 go into 36? Well, I know it's not going to go in evenly just because I know 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to add in at least a 0 here, see what we get. 16 goes into 36 2 times. 2 times 16 is 32. My remainder is 4. I bring down this 0 now. I'm after the decimal place. 16 goes into 40. Well, 2 times, because 3 times 16 is too much. 2 times 16 is 32. My remainder is 8, which means I am not done. I'm going to keep adding zeros until I can figure out if I'm done or if it repeats, which you'll learn in a higher grade. 16 goes into 80 how many times? Well, I know that 5 times 16 is 80, but let's just check that to make sure. 5 times 6 is 30, put a 0 there, carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So yeah, that's exactly 80. So 5 is the number that goes up here. 5 times 16 is 80. So my remainder is 0, which means the answer to this question is 2.25, 2.25. All right, 13. Which expression can be used to answer the question 6.42 divided by 0.2? Well, if you remember, to get the decimal place in the right place, you must make the divisor, the number you're dividing by, a whole number, which means I would multiply by 10 or move this decimal 1 over, which means I'd have to move this decimal 1 over. So this is equivalent to 64.2 divided by 2. So that's not 64.2, that's not 64.2 divided by 2. But this one is, so there's our match. Which expression can be used to answer how many times 0.05 goes into 22.1? All right, well, we would need to move this decimal, the 1, 2 over, which means we're multiplying by 100, which means I'd have to multiply this by 100 to move this 1, 2 over. And notice, moving a 1 over gets it to after the 1, but I still have to move it over, so multiply by another 10, really. So I'd have to, moving a 1 over becomes 221, and moving a 1 more over becomes 2,210. So it's 2,210 divided by 5, which is this answer right there. Remember, we got to make the divisor, the number outside the house, or the number dividing our decimal, a whole number. All right. So now we're getting to the section where we're dividing decimals. So all the problems before this had whole numbers divisor. So now we have decimal divisors. So what do? I got to move that 1 over to make that a whole number. So I got to move this 1 over. All right. I always tell you guys, rewrite the problem. So it's really the same as how many times does 6 go into 13.44. Alright, so let's see, how many times does 6 go into 13? That is exactly 2 times. My decimal, my answer is going to go right there. 2 times 6 is 12. Remainder is 1. I bring down my 4. How many times does 6 go into 14? Well, that's also 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. So 14 minus 12 is 2. So my remainder is 2. So now I can bring down this 4. And 6 goes into this 24 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. I have no more remainder. I am done. My answer is 2.24. Number 16, how many times does 1.2 go into 33.6? So I need to move this 1 decimal over, and I need to move that 1 decimal over. So this is really the same as how many times does 12 go into 336. Alright, and if I need a decimal point, it's going to go right there. Alright, let's see. 12 doesn't go into 3, but 12 goes into 33 how many times? Well, 3 is too much because that would be 36. So 12 goes into 33 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. So 33 minus 24 is 9. So now I bring down the 6. How many times does 12 go into 96? Well, I know my 12 times table, but if you don't, I'm going to show you that not 8 times 12. Sorry for this extra piece. I'm using my mouse, not the stylus today. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. 96. So, yep, 8 is the number that goes here. So, 28. 8 times 12 is 96. I don't have any more remainders. So this answer is actually a whole number because I have the decimal there but nothing behind it. Well, I have infinite zeros behind it, but 28 is the answer to this problem. All right, let's go to 17. How many times does 0.05 go into 1.22? Well, we need to make this a whole number, so I move the decimal 2 over. And I keep saying move the decimal 2 over. What I'm really doing is multiplying this by 100, and I'm multiplying this by 100. And if you recall, the reason we do that is it will tell us where the decimal goes in our answer. So it's really what we're saying. What we're saying as a reminder is 1.22 divided by 0.05 is mathematically the same as taking 122 and dividing it by just 5. Right? And the advantage of this, by taking this divisor and making it a whole number, it tells us where our decimal place will end up working out. All right, does 5 go into 1? Nope. 5 goes into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. My remainder is 2. So now I can bring down this 2. How many times does 5 go into 22? The answer is it goes in 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Remainder is 2. Sorry once again about my handwriting. I'm using my mouse today and not the stylus because I left it at work. Bring down the 0. How many times does 5 go into 20? The answer is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. I have no more remainder. I'll extend the page a little bit. I have no more remainder, so the answer to this problem, 17, is 24.4. Number 18, slightly larger number that we're going to be working with in the sense that we're going to have to make that 23 to be a whole number. So I would have to move this one decimal place over. Once again, I'm not just moving decimal places. I'm multiplying by 10, multiplying this by 10. So I'm able to rewrite this problem as how many times does 23 go into 19.32. Right? As we've shown in class before, this is mathematically equivalent to this original problem. All right, so I'm going to go in red here just so we can kind of change the color up a bit. Does 23 go into 1? Nope. Does 23 go into 19? No. So I have to put a 0 there. Does 23 go into 193? Well, it will go in, but let's think about this. 10 times 23 is 230. If I take 23 away from that, I'm going to be over 200. So it's not 9 times. Let's try 8. Let's see what we get if we do 8. 8 times 23. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry the 1. 8, not 1, excuse me, 2. It's 24. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 is 18, so 184. So it looks like the number that goes up here is 8. 8 times 23 is 184. So that means our remainder is, well, 193 minus 184 would be 9. So bring that down. How many times does 23 go into 92? Let's see, 23 is close to 20, a little more than 20. So 5 times 20 would be 100. That's too much. Let's try 4 times 23. Let's see what happens. 4 times 23. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. It's exactly 92, which means the number that goes up here would be a 4. 4 times 23 is 92. My remainder is 0. So my answer to this problem is 0.84, which should make sense because 2.3 would go into 1.9 less than 1 time. So yeah, 0.84 should make sense. All right, if you buy bananas that weigh 0.8 pounds for $1.88, how much does 1 pound of bananas weigh? Well, if you think about it, all this is a division problem, right? So if I said I bought, I don't know, 4 pounds of bananas, let's use the whole numbers to make sense of this. For $20. Just making up numbers here so you can see what I'm talking about. So how much would 1 pound be? I could just take 20 and divide it by 4, and it would be $5 per pound. Right? $5 per pound. If you need to pause and rewatch that to understand why, I'm just kind of using this as an example of nice round numbers. If I took $20 and divided it into 4 equal groups, I would get $5. But I have a decimal here, so I really need to do the same thing, is divide this number by that number. So 1.88 divided by 0.8. All right, 1.88 divided by 0.8. Well, I can't do that until I make this a whole number, the divisor, so I'm going to move the decimal 1 over there, and it's the same as how many times does 8 go into 18.8. Alright, let's do it slowly. 8 goes into 18, how many times? That would be 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Remainder is 2. Sorry again for my handwriting, I'm using my mouse, not the stylus. 8 goes into 28. Let's see, 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24, which means I still have a remainder of 4. 28 minus 24 is 4. So now I can bring down a 0 over here, and now I get a nice number that works. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, which means my remainder is 0, which means the answer to this question is $2.35 per pound. All right, let's just look at the logic here. If I buy less than a pound, I'm going to pay less than $2.35, right? So 188 makes perfect sense, or at least logical sense. So there's our answer. Now let's do the last problem. A Jeep can go 363 miles on a full tank of gas. The tank holds 22 gallons. How many miles can the Jeep go on 1 gallon of gas, or how many miles per gallon is that? Well, we know that if it goes 363 miles, and we divide that into 22 equally sized groups, right? 22 1-gallon groups, we'll find out how many miles it goes on 1 gallon. All right, if I need to, this is where my decimal would go. Does 22 go into 3? No. Does 22 go into 36? It sure does, 1 time. 1 times 22 is 22. My remainder is 4. 3 minus 1, no, 2 is 1. So 143. All right, how many times does 22 go into 143? Let's see. Well, 7 times 20 is 140, but this is more than 20, so I think that's too much. Let's try 6. 6 times 22. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13. So yeah, 132 is close to 143 without going over. So this would be 6 times 22 is 132. My remainder, and I am sorry again for my handwriting, I'm using my mouse, not the stylus. 3 minus 2 is 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I can bring down a 0 from after the decimal place. And it's how many times does 22 go into 110? Well, I think it's 5. Let's see. Do a little math on the side. Here's my scrap work. 5 times 22. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. So yeah, it makes sense. So 5 would go up there. 5 times 22 is 110. Let's extend the page. I have no more remainder. So what does that 16.5 mean? That means every 1 gallon gets you 16.5 miles or 16.5 miles per gallon. Hope this all helped.